Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am in Central Florida, Inverness, Florida to be exact, and we're here at 44 Tackle. If you guys ever come down, you got to check this place out. They've got everything. But today we're down here because we've got open house here at 44 Tackle, but we've got the Bassmaster Open next week. So we start practice tomorrow, Saturday, and then we start the tournament on Thursday. So got a lot of fishing ahead. I'm really excited. I always love coming down to Florida, but I wanted to show you guys. We got Harvey Horn right here acting a fool.
That's all.
And so when I come down to Florida, I wanted to show you guys like one category of baits that I lean on really hard. And a lot of times it's, you know, a bait that I'll throw in a tournament, but really in practice, it's one of the absolute key baits to throw because you can cover a ton of water with it. And that is some type of swimming worm. Okay, this right here, the Turbo Fatties, I helped Z-Man design this one. It's got a thicker body than some of the other, swimming worms out there. And it's got this paddle tail that we designed that works perfect with Elastec. And one of the things that we wanted to achieve with this bait is we needed the right tail action with a 3/16 ounce weight. So not only does it have a good swimming action when you're just swimming it on the surface or below the surface, but when you stop the retrieve and it falls to the bottom on a 3/16 ounce weight, you get that perfect tail action. You know, if you're, especially in the spring where you're bringing it up to maybe a hole in the grass where you think that they might be spawning, you can stop it and let it, flutter down into that hole. So the Mag Fatty or the Turbo Fatties is just a really, really good bait to cover water on these grass flats. So essentially I'm just making long casts, just fan casting on these flats. I've got my motor guide on high and I'm just trying to cover it as much water as possible. And then once you start getting bites, then you can start slowing down with some other presentations, maybe flipping, pitching, something like that. And, it's just a really good way to eliminate water, which is a really big key in Florida. So I'll kind of run through the tackle that I use for the Turbo Fatties. We've got everything right here, which is nice. Look at that. One of the Open champions of the year, Tyler Williams. All right. So the rod that I'm using with this technique, let's see if we can find it, is called the Okeechobee rod. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Harvey Horn, professional cameraman. All right, Okeechobee rod right here. So this is a 7.6 heavy action rod. So this rod, it could be used as a flipping stick. It's a great flipping stick. But I love it for casting long distances over grass flats with the Turbo Fatties, frogs. It's a great mat frog rod, and then also toads, things like that. Okay, so the Okeechobee rod is the one that I like as far as fishing on these big grass flats. Well, let's go check out the other tackle. Where's the line? Oh, got a line over here. All right, so we got the line rod here, or the wall. So we don't quite have the exact line that I like here, but I like to use braided line 100% of the time. Unless, we're here at the Harris Chain. You go over to Griffin, especially early season, swimming a swimming worm subsurface with fluorocarbon is really good. But most of the time we're fishing through like Kissimmee grass flats, lily pads, things like that. I'll use 50-pound braid. Okay, this right here is the Seagar Smackdown. I like this braid, but mostly for flipping and pitching. My favorite braid is actually the Tactics braid, which is cheaper from Seagar. It's less expensive, but it has this kind of like raw texture to it. It kind of feels more braidy, and that texture is really good for being able to really saw your way through that cover. So like if I get bit on the length of a cast, I can actually rely on that braid to cut through reeds, lily pads, and Kissimmee grass pretty easily. So I like that braid a little bit better, but there's nothing wrong with Smackdown. So that's really, really important with this type of technique. Using braid, no stretch, comes through grass really well, cuts through grass really well. You can get a solid hook set way out there. We use braid, just to illustrate that point, we use braid in Alaska in 300 foot of water. In fact, we use braid in Alaska in 2,200 feet of water for black cod, and you can feel the bite. That's how sensitive it is and how little stretch it has. So let's go check out the hooks and the terminal tackle we use. Look at this beautiful shop. I love it here. Yeah, got exactly what we need. All right, so as far as the hook, obviously you're using heavy braid, you're using a big, flipping stick of a rod. You need to be using a hook that can handle that. My favorite hook for whether you're using the Turbo Fatties or any of the other ones is an EWG style hook. Now, you really don't have to go any bigger than 5/0. 4/0 is really the standard for most of those smaller, 6 or 7 inch worms. You can go up to a 5/0, but 4/0 is going to handle just fine, especially with the Elastec. But this right here, this hook is the perfect hook for this technique. This is the Hayabusa 959. It's a heavy duty hook. It's got a great point on it. It has this NRB coating on it that even enhances, it's almost like Teflon. It just makes it super smooth and it penetrates really easy. And so that is by far my favorite hook for this technique in pretty much any time I'm fishing with braid.
To your left. Left.
Oh yeah. Thank you. All right, so now all we have left is the weight, and then another thing that we have to add to the system. So one of the keys to throwing a swimming worm is, you're Texas rigging this worm, right? But you have to peg the weight, because like we talked about earlier, a lot of times I'm bringing it over the grass, and then I'll get like a hole in the grass. I want to drop that worm into that hole, and if you don't peg the weight, the bait may not follow that weight down into that hole in the grass. So we're going to be using a T-stop like this. I like the T-stops better than the bobber stops when it comes to fishing with this type of technique, but honestly, it's just personal preference and just what I've been used to. It's really not going to make as big of a difference, but I like the T-pegs for this. When I'm flipping and pitching, I like bobber stops a little bit more, but the T-pegs are my first choice for this technique. So the weights that we're going to be using, we've even got the Fitzgerald weights. So these weights right here, this is a quarter, 5/16, so 3/16 and a quarter are my most used weights for swimming a worm. So the 3/16 is really good for early season, spring, or when you're trying to bring it over the top of the grass and keep it on the surface, or if you have to slow roll it, okay, and you don't want it to get too deep. But a 1/4 ounce is really good if you're in open water, you're trying to get the bait down further, maybe you're reeling it faster, but you want it to stay subsurface. 1/4 ounce is really good, but 3/16, 1/4 ounce, those are pretty much standard for swimming worm. But anyways, guys, that is pretty much it. Harvey, did I forget anything?
No, pretty much covered it.
Perfect. So just to kind of wrap it all up, if you're coming to Florida, or if you're going to any lake that has a lot of grass, especially emergent vegetation, lily pads, spatterdock, reeds, bulrushes, whatever it is, a swimming worm is a great way to cover water and at least eliminate the unproductive areas. If you can start getting some bites, that's when you can start slowing down with other things. And who knows, there's been many tournaments where a swimming worm has been my key bait for the tournament, but there's been a lot more that I found the key area with the swimming worm and then went in with other techniques. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Other than that, like, share, subscribe, trust the process. I'll see you out on the water.